Welcome back. President Biden and Vice President Harris marked Veterans Day yesterday with a visit to Arlington National Cemetery for the traditional wreath-laying ceremony at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. This marked the first time we've seen the president and vice president together since the election. In his speech, Biden reflected on his time in office.
This is the last time I will stand here at Arlington as Commander-in-Chief. It's been the greatest honor of my life to lead you, to serve you, to care for you, to defend you, just as you defended us, generation after generation after generation.
As you can see there, the president seemed to get emotional during the ceremony, at one point wiping his eye with a tissue during a performance of God Bless America. Later in the day, the president traveled to Delaware, where he attended an unveiling for a plaque honoring his late son, Bo, a veteran of the war in Iraq who died in 2015 after a battle with cancer. Joining us now, former Supreme Allied Commander of NATO, retired four-star Navy Admiral James Stavridis. He is Chief International Analyst for NBC News and is joining us live from London. Admiral, so good to see you. Let's just start there with the president's remarks. He ends every speech in which, from office in which he says, God bless the troops. Certainly, this is a responsibility that he takes as a sacred one. Give us your thoughts on Veterans Day, but perhaps more specifically, President Biden as Commander-in-Chief.
Veterans Day, of course, originated in the end of World War I, the 11th minute of the 11th hour of the 11th day, the end of World War I. But it's come to symbolize, Jonathan, as you well know, all those who have served. And I think I know President Biden takes that with extreme seriousness, and in particular because his son, Bo, who fought in Iraq, ultimately succumbed to cancer, and was somebody who is quite appropriately looms large in the president's memories and the way he feels about the veterans community. He has been deeply empathetic. His Secretary of Veterans Affairs, who you showed a moment ago, Dennis McDonough, former White House Chief of Staff, they have done enormous good for veterans. I salute President Biden on his term of office.
He talks often about how it's perhaps his most important job as president to take care of those who serve for our country. Admiral, let's turn now to what we've heard from Donald Trump and the national security team he's putting together. That reportedly includes Senator Marco Rubio as Secretary of State and Congressman Mike Waltz of Florida as National Security Advisor. Tell us what you think of these picks. Do they alleviate or exacerbate some of the concerns you've had about Trump's foreign policy plans?
Well, as a native Floridian, married to a native Floridian who's a Florida resident, I'm at least happy to see Susie Wiles, Floridian, as Chief of Staff, Mike Waltz, Congressman from Florida, going into National Security Advisor, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, also a Floridian, a native. So the Florida team is coming in. But seriously, Jonathan, I think that each of them have the requisite skills for the job. Susie Wiles, steady pair of hands, not seeking the spotlight, kind of what you want in a chief of staff. Marco Rubio has always been very oriented toward the international world, obviously Latin America and the Caribbean, given his background as a South Floridian, but also internationally. Mike Waltz, people don't know. You're going to learn a lot about Mike Waltz, this National Security Advisor. He's a combat veteran, married to a combat veteran, a four-time recipient of the Bronze Star, seen a lot of combat, Green Beret, gets it on the troops. I've met with him recently. I think he is someone who will be well-suited for the job to which he's being appointed.
So, Admiral, let's focus in on Rubio in particular for a last moment here. He is a little more of a traditionalist when it comes to foreign relations and believing in NATO and the like, at least in the past. And look, at the end of the day, he's going to do Donald Trump's bidding. But what do we think here? Is this somewhat of a reassuring sign to Kyiv and to our allies elsewhere?
I think so. And Senator Rubio not only has deep pipe into Latin America, obviously he's a native of South Florida, a fluent Spanish speaker. I think our relations in that part of the world will be very strong. He's also been very hard, appropriately, on Venezuela and the dictator there, Nicolas Maduro. I think also Senator Rubio is well known around the international circuit, and I think will project a sense of international engagement. I, for one, am hoping he steps up and continues to support Ukraine, for example. That'll be the litmus test.
All right. Retired four-star Navy Admiral James Cerritos, thank you as always for your analysis.